Hello, hello. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining me today for this incredible session. I'm so excited to share with you on how to keep employees on their toes. Yes, thank you for joining. As you're coming in, go ahead and leave a comment and let me know where you're coming in from. I am going to try to get to some Q&A at the end, but I'm so excited for today's topic. My name is Kaylee, and I'm a business results strategist who is on a mission to help aesthetic practice owners build deeply satisfying, lucrative, freedom-based businesses that stand the test of time. And y'all who know me have heard me say this before. In order to become $1 million or a multi-million dollar CEO for that matter, and not just an overworked operator of your business, you need to leverage a winning team. But insert why we're here today. What the heck happens when your team is just not that pumped up anymore? You have that employee who just seems, a little too comfortable. They come into the office, when they first started, they were so excited, and now you can barely get a peep out of them. You can hardly see them smile. Come on, get excited about where we're going. Or maybe he or she just doesn't quite have the energy or the fire that she used to. I hear all the time, Kaylee, when I hired that employee so many years ago, we had a whole different kind of relationship. He or she had a different kind of enthusiasm about the business, about the growth of the business. And now I'm not quite sure if we're on the same page. Well, I want to talk to you about this idea, this concept of how to keep your employees engaged and excited in your business, and also kind of keeping them on their toes, keeping them fired up and ready for the kind of adversity that normal businesses bring us, right? We're not just operating a regular day-to-day business that doesn't bring us hurdles and adversity. And also, I know you, and you're not here for a quick win. You're here to have a business over the course of a lifetime. And as you continue to build your business and reiterate and reinvent yourself, you want to have a team that's just as excited and as engaged about the opportunity as you are. And so I want to talk to you about, really my 3-step super strategy to keeping employees on your toes, and how to keep them motivated and committed to the like-minded growth goals that you have for your business. So take out a pen and paper. I'm really excited for today's session. For those of you just joining, welcome. I can see comments here. Hopefully I'm going to try to answer any comments or questions that I see, so we can make this an interactive day together, and I'm not just talking right at you. So first, I want to start off by telling you a little story about a client that we worked with last year, who had a very successful private practice, and he was looking to really kind of reinvent and reiterate the way he was doing business, and by bringing in really a non-surgical aesthetic component. He hadn't been doing much other than lasers for scar revision, and so he really wanted to expand that, bring on a nurse, build a fortune for himself and some financial freedom and flexibility around his schedule, spending less time doing some of the non-aesthetic or non-elective work, and to really build a runway for him for his future and eventual retirement, and build a business that he would be able to sell. And so all of these were great things. He had a really great business already in place. He just kind of needed some fine-tuning, some power tweaks. And he said to me, Kaylee, I have an incredible team. They've all been with me 10 plus years, and we're running on autopilot, which usually that's an instant red flag to me, right? So, he was happy. He was like, we're not going to have to do anything with the team. The team is solid. So we started to do the work together to kind of put the infrastructure in place for the aesthetic business. And sure enough, the employee that had been with him the longest happened to be his practice manager. She said, wait a minute, why do we need to do all this? We already have a great business. I just simply don't understand why we need to build a kind of like reinvent and restructure and reinvigorate a business that's already doing well. And so the first step, was really getting clarification around what his goals were, and then communicating those to the team. So I want you to start writing down these notes. So the first power strategy in the 3 steps is C. So these are going to be this is your acronym, CIA. So CIA, to keep your employees on their toes. Number 1, clarification. Okay, so in this case, we had Erica as practice manager, who was, quite reluctant to change. And a lot of it had to do in the beginning, a lot of the reason why was because they hadn't communicated the goals of the future of the business clearly. Doctor kind of had a vision for what he wanted to do. He had a team that was already, running in place as they were. And change is difficult. Change is hard. We want to resist change. We're not people who like to have to adapt to the unknown, right? To uncertainty. And so that was number 1, was really getting clarity for him and his goals, but also communicating those to the team. So clarifying truly what the goals were and making sure that the team understood how they would benefit them. When employees don't feel like what's in it for me, like they're not being listened to, or the goals of the business don't really relate or align with what their personal goals are, it's hard for them to get behind them. And so if you've listened to me before, or you're in our Facebook group, you've heard me talk about vision, having that vision, and also vision casting and vision clarifying for your team so that they can get excited and get behind those goals. In my mind, it was a no-brainer for these girls. Business was going to make more money. They were going to have opportunity to make more money. They were going to have fun. They were going to get to be in aesthetics. But he didn't take the time, to really communicate that in a way to his team where they felt like they wanted to be on board and they were behind him. And so that was really the first hurdle that we experienced when we didn't really expect it, right? So he thought he had a team that was really going to be excited, and they weren't. So number 1, C, is to clarify. Number 2, I, is intentional disruption. Okay, write that down, intentional disruption. What does that mean? Okay, so I want to share with you guys a little something that, put a little science behind this conversation. So you see behind me this chart that I've created. This curve here, you see this S curve. This is representative of a typical innovation curve in business, which this was basically created by Clayton Christensen at Harvard, who decided that this is going to be a model that new innovations can use to understand, and brands can learn how quickly an innovation would be adopted by the marketplace. Well, what happened is that this really brilliant woman named Whitney Johnson, she wrote a book and started to do some research in her management of how this curve could actually relate to human beings. So hang with me here. So this is an innovation curve for the adoption of new innovations to the market, but also for innovation of people. What? Okay, listen. People need to be disrupted too. And people, just like things and products in the marketplace, want to be challenged, want to grow, and want to change. So look at what happens in this innovation curve. And why is this so important for you is that you may have employees who are fitting into a certain one end of this curve that are way outside of the sweet spot here. So if you look at really how she broke up this S-curve, there's 3 important sections to the curve, right? And if you look at the X and Y axes, you see growth here and time. So the first part, this first kind of milestone of learning, so to speak, is the inexperienced stage. And this might be where you're bringing on a new employee, you're launching a new product, you have a new device, something is like really new and innovative and exciting and very scary. And there's a big kind of learning curve, like that employee might be acclimating to a new team, a new boss, and they're constantly having to they're working hard to learn, and it doesn't feel that good. It's confusing and overwhelming. It's kind of like if you were to do a jigsaw puzzle, right? When you first start with that puzzle, there's 5,000 pieces and you dump them out on the coffee table, and then you're like, why the heck did I do that? This looks so overwhelming. I don't know what I'm gonna do, or how am I gonna be able to put these pieces together? Then you start to assemble the pieces to the puzzle, and you're like, okay, now I'm getting this. I can see a finish line here, right? And that's really where our employees will move from inexperienced stage to engagement. Now, this is really where the sweet spot is. This is where the puzzle's coming together, you're getting momentum, you're really feeling accomplished, feel like dopamine hits from learning, light coming into work. There's excitement. There's a lot of advancement. You're really seeing the fruit of your labor, the benefit, the results, right? And this tends to happen right about from the 6-month mark to 4 years, okay, in general. And this could be different company to company, depending on the makeup of your team, the makeup of what is going on in your business. In general, that's where we kind of see employees right around in this area start to feel like, okay, I'm in the zone, right? I'm in my element. And then they get really good at what they're doing. And this is where, we experienced the situation like the client we talked about last year, where this employee of his started to kind of get a little bit complacent, right? So once around 4 years plus here is where, the employees are really mastering, and you as a leader, we need new challenges, but we're really mastering that thing. We're mastering the responsibilities in our job. We feel like we can do this in our sleep, right? You're like on autopilot, like, I'm driving the car and I just end up there like, oh, I'm at work today. And a lot of the challenges that you experience or face are things that you've experienced before. So you really feel like, I know how to handle this. You have a lot of confidence. There's a lot of comfortability in that. And obviously as an owner, it's really nice to have employees that are in this space. But what happens is, you can see here's this curve where we're really talking about engagement, right? So the employee from 0 to 6 months is like, kind of learning, and then boom, shoots up in engagement, super excited about where they are. They're on their toes, right? This is employee on their toes. Sweet spot, they're happy, they're excited. And then you can see this plateau here start to happen. So as time goes by, employees, start to experience this plateau. And if they don't jump onto a new curve where there's a new challenge, a new opportunity for them, right, to start back over at the bottom of this S curve, then this plateau becomes a precipice. And that's where employees start to get bored, complacent, and frustrated with where they are. What's the point here? If an employee is not growing with the company, they will grow away from it. So as leaders, when we're having a conversation about our employees being on their toes, this is an important conversation to have. And this is also an important part of the 3-step strategy, this intentional disruption, because we as leaders can help move our employees along this curve, and also at the same time create a new curve for them so that they are learning again. Again, I didn't say pay them more. I didn't say that they need to have a raise, right? What I said was they need to be challenged. We need challenge. We need upward mobility. We want opportunity for growth. And that is what's going to motivate an employee who's passionate and ambitious about helping you grow their business. So what can happen here? This could be a new responsibility in the job. This could be you investing in training for them in some way, putting them in a leadership academy, teaching them new skills, right? This is where you have an opportunity to literally have these conversations through the course of their performance reviews and their development with you as a company. Remember that they're growing as human beings and as employees too. So it's important to know where they are. I'll also mention that this is really about 15% of your employees. You really want about 15% here in the 0 to 6 and 15% here in mastery, but about 70% here. So it's nice to have kind of the young, new employees who are going to up-level the status quo of the business. They're going to keep everybody else on their toes because they're new. It also makes us as employers really look at our systems and are we doing things right? I'm going through this right now. We just hired a new employee. And so, it's making me kind of look at and evaluate, okay, we've kind of got a little complacent in the way that we were doing business. How can we up-level the status quo? And she's really challenged us to do that. And then, moving into the 70% here, you want to have a good portion of your employees really living in this sweet spot. And then it's always nice to have a veteran here. But if you have a veteran on your team, let's be thinking about what is the next move for them? What is the next S curve for them to jump onto? And if they're asking you for more money, it's quite possibly that they're thinking about what opportunity would provide me a bigger challenge. And that's where, ultimately the money would come from that. So if you're thinking about ways for them to grow, a win-win for the business would be for them to be in a position where they could bring more value to the company, create more vitality and really profit and fruitfulness for the company, and then also, put more in their pocket as well at the same time. So it would be a win-win. Okay, so we talked about C, clarification of goals. We talked about I, intentional disruption. And finally, I want to talk about A of the CIA 3-step power strategy, and that is achievement over perfection. So I often am asked when talking about employees and about this kind of process of disruption and growth and the growth curve, and how do we develop employees really, like what's the next step to challenge them? How do we know what to do? What if I push them into something and teach them a new skill or challenge them to learn a new skill and then they feel like they are failing at it, or it takes the business in a backwards direction? Well, if you haven't listened to, go listen to my podcast, The Fierce Factor, and there's an episode called The Disruption Strategy. And in that, I talk about this specifically. Remember, think of your business and also the roles that your employees play in your business, kind of like Chutes and Ladders. Did anybody ever play that game, Chutes and Ladders? Okay, so think of like, it is not linear. Growing a business, it is not linear. If anybody wants to battle me on that, let's go. I would love to do that. We can debate all day. It's like a game of Chutes and Ladders. You often have to take 2 steps back to slingshot 10 steps forward. Just like in the game, you slide down and then you might climb a ladder like so many spaces up to the top, right? But sometimes it actually takes the stepping backwards. And for your team to be willing to fail, this is where you as a leader have to be focused on achievement and growth versus perfection or an outcome from them, okay? And what does that mean? It means I'm going to challenge you today to increase your tolerance for mistakes. I know it's not easy, but when you have a new employee, when you have an employee that you're trying to put onto a new S-curve and you're trying to move them and challenge them into new areas of their life and of their business, you have to be willing to tolerate the mistakes that they're going to make and them learning. And sometimes I think we shoot ourselves in the foot when we're an employer hiring new employees, because in the beginning, they're trying to learn, right? They're in this like, kind of like slumpy stage of, inexperience, and they're trying to get themselves here as quickly as possible. And it's hard for everybody. And then we're questioning ourselves as an employer because we probably hired too late and should have hired them 3 or 6 months before. And now we have a gap and we're like, like this maybe is not going to work out. This is the wrong employee. I made the wrong decision. And we start kind of looking for reasons why that employee won't work. Slow your roll. Hire for passion, hire for ambition. And if you have a plan in place to move them up from one curve to another, I promise you, you will keep your employees on their toes. You will keep them engaged. You will keep them motivated and committed to like-minded growth goals that you have for your business, okay? So just like we incorporated this 3-step method, these power strategies, CIA, into our client's business last year, where his practice manager felt like she didn't really know what was going on and she couldn't get behind it. She had been with the business for a long time. She was busy. She talked about being busy and overwhelmed, but we diagnosed the busyness. The busyness was her falling off this ledge and trying to find things to keep herself busy because she didn't have them put in place for her. So I really want to encourage you to think about this in theory and think about the concept of how you can be challenging that employee and you can make them busy doing things that get them excited about the vision for your business. So CIA, clarification, intentional disruption, and achievement over perfection. And we do have a little something for you. I'm just now remembering. Shannon, can you text it or put it in the notes for me? So we created a tool for you because when I put this conversation out to a few of our clients, they said, hey, Kaylee, can you talk about what if that employee is not just at a point where they need to be challenged, but we're not sure if they're the right fit for the business anymore. The business is really evolving. 2020 has been a really challenging year. We want to really catapult into 2021, and we're not entirely sure if we have the right person in place. We created a tool for you. Just you can text the word checklist to the number 833-517-0084 let me see if I can do this. Pull that up. Awesome. So text the word checklist to 833-517-0084. And I created a tool, Is It Time to Fire Audit? And it's basically a checklist for you to go through to determine if you are the reason that if it's you as a leader, or if it's actually that employee. Have you done everything you need to do to make sure that that employee has the resources, has the training, has the challenge, has the support to be able to succeed in the business you have or the business that you are looking to build in the future. And so again, this is a free resource for you, and you may start there. If you feel like, hey, Kaylee, I have that employee that's falling off of the edge of that, it's become a precipice. I'm not sure if he or she is going to be growing with the company. Go grab our resource, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. So again, thanks so much for joining me today, and go get that checklist, and I'll see you next time.